Today I'm going to be talking about my adoption story. Obviously this is my very first YouTube video and I'm just super excited to make this video. The purpose of this video is to shed light to adoption from China specifically and how adoption really does affect the people who have been adopted and brought to first world countries. I was born in Jingdezhen in Jiangxi province, China. I was left on the orphanage's steps when I was 5 months old, and I actually had a note on me that said my birthday, and from what I've been told, it's just my birthday, nothing else. I lived in the orphanage for a little bit, and then I think I moved to a foster home with a foster family, and I know that the foster family took really good care of me. I heard that I slept in a community bed, so basically my whole entire foster family, like my foster mom, my foster dad, probably the siblings, the children, we all slept in the same bed. So my mom told me that when she first adopted me, when I was in my crib, I would literally sleep like this, like all tight, because I was so used to sleeping in that community bed. Also, I heard that I would, in the little carrying pouch thing that people would put on their backs to hold babies, I would be in those while my foster family was working in the field. So I would literally be close to them at all times, on their backs while they were working in the fields. So I just know that my foster family really did take care of me, and I know that because of that love and care, I had an easier transition into living with my birth family. When I was 15 months old, I was adopted to a 50-year-old single mother. I seriously don't know how she does it, how she did it. 50-year-olds usually have grown children or children who are about to be grown up, and she was just adopting an infant. That's a lot of courage and bravery, and she's shown me nothing but love over these past 17 years, or 16 years, I guess. I love her dearly, and she's just such a great role model in my life. So yeah, I was adopted when I was 15 months old, and when I was 5 years old, I actually went back to China. We visited the Great Wall of China and my orphanage. I got to see my toilet, which is pretty interesting, and my crib that I slept in when I was in the orphanage, and I thought that was super cool. And as of recently, I've really started to admire Chinese culture and just love the music, the art, the vibrant colors, just everything about China. I think the Chinese culture is just so rich, and I really want to learn more about it. Also, as you all know, the one-child policy was enacted in 1979, I believe, and it just ended in 2015, which is crazy, but I mean, they were just trying to reduce the population because China has so much people, but obviously it ended up kind of failing because a bunch of the families would give up their children who were girls because they would want boys to work in the fields. I'm sure that I was probably that case. They probably saw that I was a girl and that they wanted to I'm sure they really did want to keep me, because they really did keep me for 5 months, which is actually quite a long time, and they left me on the orphanage's steps. So I really do know that they wanted me to get the proper care and the proper love that I needed. I can't thank them enough for that. Being adopted really has provided me with the most opportunity. I'm just so thankful that I'm living in the US, and I know that if I were still in China, I probably would not be happy. Oh, actually, I have a really interesting story also as well. I actually have a scar. I don't know if you can see it. It's right there somewhere. It's just a small little scar. It's probably just from a little nick of a knife or something. I don't know. My mom actually told me that some Chinese mothers or fathers who have to give up their children will leave a small little scar on their child in a particular place, so that one day if they ever see or encounter the child again, if they see that scar, they will know for a fact that that's their child. So my mom thinks that that may be the case for me with my scar right here. I mean, you never know. I'm not sure, but it may be, so I think that's really cool. So now I'll talk about how being adopted has affected me living in the United States. When you're a child, you think that you're the same as everyone else. You think that you look the same, you don't really care about fitting in because you're just a child. But as middle school rolled around, it was really emphasized that I'm different or that I look different. I went to a private Christian school for middle school. I went in with everyone knowing each other. I went in and honestly, I was super scared. Like, as a child, I was really shy and really awkward, so going into that school was sort of intimidating. Everyone was actually really nice. Like, I'm so thankful that I went to that school because I still have some really, like, good lifelong friends from that school that I still keep in touch with today. But that middle school time period of my life was just kind of rough. That disillusionment of my childhood years of me thinking that I'm literally the same as everyone else was totally just beaten down when I went to middle school. So when I was in middle school, a lot of the middle school kids were white, Caucasian, and there was only like one black person and two other Asian girls there. I just remember like feeling so different. If me or the two other Asian girls were like together talking, people would be like, "Oh, the Asian kids are together," or like, "Oh, the Asians are together." And like other times people would refer to me as Asian, not call me by my name, but just say like, "Hey, Asian," which I thought was kind of weird. There was this one guy who actually said that my skin color was the closest to poop when I was, well, this was at an after-school program, and there were like two other kids there, and I was the only Asian person. Everyone else there was white. But he was like, "Yeah, your skin color is like the closest to poop." I was like, "Oh, thanks." Like, just stuff like that, and it just really made me feel different, and I just felt really sad. And in middle school, like, obviously I had pretty low self-esteem. Like, I thought that in order to be liked by a guy or just to be pretty, I had to be Caucasian because the westernized beauty standard was really ingrained in my head. So I just felt really just like sad, and I just felt ugly. But that really changed when I went into high school. I went to a public high school, and it really shaped me. I was really sheltered at my private school, middle school, but going into the public high school, people would actually tell me that I'm pretty, or I was just surrounded by a bunch of minorities, and I really like realized that our differences, as cliche as this sounds, really do make us beautiful. And if everyone just looked the same, it would be boring. No one would be pretty because everyone looked the same. There's no uniqueness to anyone. I just really sort of did realize my worth, and I did realize that I'm loved. Also, another thing that I want to say, a lot of people ask me about like my adoption story, and they always think that it's going to be like a very hard topic for me to talk about or something that I'll cry about talking about, but it's really not that hard for me. I know everyone has their own story, everyone has their own pasts and other struggles. So thankfully I was adopted young enough to where I don't remember any of it, so I can talk about it without feeling any kind of remorse or sadness. But I think it gets more awkward when people have the preconception that I'm going to cry about talking about it, or I'm going to be super sad, and so it just makes the whole like setting kind of like awkward, because they're like, "Oh, you're adopted," and like some people are like, "You're adopted? I'm so sorry." And I'm like, don't apologize. Like, I'm thankful that I'm adopted. Like, if I were in China, like, I'm pretty sure I would not be happy. Like, I'm so thankful I'm here in America. Just with people thinking that I'm going to be super like emotional, or think that talking about adoption is super hard, it just makes the whole atmosphere just more awkward, and it just makes me feel awkward talking about it. So advice, if you're ever talking to someone who's adopted, don't make it awkward. Like, don't just be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I know this was really hard for you, but can I ask you questions? Like, don't do that. I mean, if you really want to talk to them about it, just act as if this is just a normal conversation, because it is. Some people probably did have a harder adoption than me. I feel like it'd be better if you just didn't act like that. Thank you for listening to this. If I can help one person, this whole video process will just make it worthwhile. Bye!